Hey everyone, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and today I'm checking out the Bad Tape plugin from Denise Audio. Denise is what I'd call a boutique audio plugin company. They're based out of Berlin, Germany, and they have some really interesting, unique plugins for sound sculpting, saturation, adding noise, and they have some great dynamic plugins as well. I've been a big fan of theirs in the past, and I really like what they're doing because they're not trying to rehash what everyone else has already done. So when they reached out to me to do a partnered video for their newest plugin, Bad Tape, I was really happy to check it out. So Bad Tape, as the name implies, is a tape emulation and saturation plugin, but the focus is more on the warped, wonky elements of tape, taking the bad elements of recording to tape and harnessing them for musical ideas. Now yes, you certainly can use this plugin as just like a typical tape saturation plugin, and it does that really well, but the goal here was to create a plugin that lets you tap into all of the elements of a tape recording that add noise and use them in a creative way. So before I break down each parameter of this plugin, let me show you what you can do with this. So Bad Tape is perfect for lo-fi sounds like this. Virtually every element in this session has Bad Tape applied to it in some way. I'm using it to add some dirt to the drums. Without the Bad Tape plugin, it's a bit plasticky sounding, it's a little too bright. Here's with Bad Tape in. I'm also using it here to fatten up my bass guitar. And it's not just tape saturation, you can hear there's sort of a pitch wobble to it as well. The same here goes for these keyboard parts. I'm introducing some hiss and noise to the keys, as well as wobbling the pitch a bit, giving it the sound of tape that's been stretched out a bit. You can also use the plugin to detune the signal, mimicking a tape slowdown or speed up effect. So not only is it giving it more of a lo-fi sound, it's also warping the pitch. So next I'll go through each of the controls and show you what they do, and then I'll give you some more musical examples. So up top here, you get a waveform display of your audio, and then just below this are all of the sound elements that are adding noise or distortion to the tape in some way. The wow and shake parameters are like wow and flutter produced by the tape being stretched out over time. So this affects the playback speed and the pitch of the recordings. The wow parameter lets you slowly detune the signal in a pseudo-random manner. and the shake parameter lets you quickly detune the signal in a pseudo-random manner. Hiss lets you add tape hiss to the signal, much like white noise. The squeal parameter adds a high-pitched tape reel noise to the signal. And the harm parameter applies a subtle bit-crushing distortion to the signal. The detune parameter is a button that allows you to create tape slowdown and speedup effects when you hold the button down and release it. It's like if you were to physically slow down the tape reel with your hand, so it slows down when you press the button, but then speeds back up after you release the button. I'll show you an example later on where you can use automation to create some cool pitched effects with this. Now, these 6 parameters at the bottom are your typical tape saturation parameters that you'd normally see in other plugins. So input and output are just the input and output gain. Typically, you'd want to lower your output gain a bit because often a saturated signal will be louder than the original input signal. Color will darken or brighten the character of the bad tape effect as a whole. Saturation lets you subtly drive the signal like if you were increasing the volume on a tape machine. And speed allows you to control the playback speed of the tape. So I love that they give you a variable slider for this, and that they also break up the color and speed into 2 different parameters. In most tape plugins, the speed of the tape is usually 7.5, 15, or 30 IPS. So you might only get like 2 or 3 options. And the faster the playback speed of the tape, the brighter the character of the audio, the slower the IPS, the darker the character. So here you get 2 independent controls over these parameters. So the speed here doesn't have an effect on the tone, but it does control the speed of the wow, shake, and squeal parameters. And last, but definitely not least, is a mix parameter. This allows you to blend the effect with the dry signal. So you can dial in a really heavy effect, but then dial that back a bit by blending it with the original dry signal for a more balanced effect. Let's try this out on drums. I find this plugin super useful for fattening up drum tracks. Here it is on the kick. I like to use a bit of the wow and shake to vary the pitch a bit, and I add the hiss and harm for a bit of noise and saturation. Hiss is actually really useful for drums because white noise saturation can actually make transients sound punchier. Now, if you're concerned about having the hiss there constantly, you can try adding a full or partial gate right after the bad tape plugin so that the hiss effect is just there on the kick hits and nowhere else. With snare drum, I'll take out the wow and shake, and I'll use this to saturate the snare. Here, the tail end and sizzle of the snare is a lot hotter, so you get a more sensitive live sounding snare track with a bigger body and more front end attack. And of course, you can use bad tape on an entire drum track or on a drum loop to give this more of a dirty loop kind of sound, or with live drums, you can give them sort of a retro sound. On bass, you can use this for a number of different effects, ranging from gentle saturation to heavy distortion. This also works great for synth bass. With the right setting, you can make a clean bass synth sound like a dirty sawtooth. And if the high-end saturation is too much for you, you can always filter out the high end with any EQ and just hear the low and mid-range saturation. Bad tape is excellent for warming and adding dirt and fizzle to synth leads and synth pads. One of my biggest complaints about software synth patches is that they sound really plasticky. They're too upfront, and when you use them, they tend to overtake everything else. But when you add bad tape to these, it softens the digital plastic sound of the synth and gives it a warmer vibe. And by all means, if you want to create a tape slow down or speed up effect, the Detune button is perfect for this. So you just use automation to set when the button is pressed and then released, and let bad tape do the rest of the work. Alright, so that's the Bad Tape plugin from Denise Audio. You can check this out at denise.io, There's a free trial if you want to check it out, and the price of the plugin is right around $55 when you convert it to US currency, so it won't break the bank either. And actually right now they have a sale where you can get it for half price until November 1st. So I'll leave a link to check it out in the video description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. You can also check me out on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if you'd like to make a monthly contribution to the channel, you can check me out at patreon.com/MusicTechHelpGuy. Thanks for the support, and thanks for watching.